Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday evening, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with life. And I'm coping with a light that's too bright. Hold on one second. Let's try and get that down to, there we are. That's a little better, isn't it? I've got a new light. Say hi to Lenny, the light. And I'm trying to find out how best to work with him. However, what happens to me is whenever I change anything, it comes on full brightness, and then I have to tone him down. He's very enthusiastic, I must say. All right, so dealing with life. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is coping with life with a bit of time spent on how to tell if you if you're in an abusive relationship, some of the sort of red flags that you need to be aware of. And even any of the ones that we talk about, what I'm going to try and do is to talk about them and then talk about if somebody says this to you or this is happening, what can you do about it? And I think it's really important that we talk to this because I think I certainly did not realize that I was in an abusive relationship until it was too late. And, you know, I was so in love that I clean missed the signs. And I'm pretty certain that I'm not the only one of the viewers that, you know, can relate to that. So what I'm going to be doing is just try and help people understand the difference between the two. All right, so now let me just get my bits together here. I wanted to say that if you are watching us for the first time, DearMamaSal is about a group of people who get together 3 times a week. And what we do is we try and deal with life week by week. I said last week that, you know, this is chapter 1 of 2021, and it's, you know, page 3, if you like. Or actually, we're just going into page 3 of chapter 1. And so think about it. And how are you doing so far? How do you feel about your life in 2021 is something that, you know, you may want to give some thought to, because every day we get to turn, you know, if you like, read a different paragraph. You know, you start a new paragraph every day of the page. And so it is really important for you to understand that if you want to have a happy life, it is a really good idea to see how quickly life passes you by. And I can assure you, at my great age of 73 and some, that, you know, it was like one minute I was in my 20s and the next minute I was in my 40s. And then, golly gee, I was 60, and now here I am at 73. And I look at it and I go, it seemed to be a blink of an eye. It was really strange. Hi, Sharon, good to see you. So remember that every morning when you get up, it's another chance. Forget about what you did wrong yesterday. Forget about, you know, in my case, I'm trying to forget about, you know, how much sugar I did not control, you know, yesterday, and I start again every day. And I must admit that I am doing a lot better, and I will talk to that a little bit later. Jody, if Jeannie comes in, please remind me to give her the correct name of that guy that I was trying to remember at lunchtime today. All right, so now I found an interesting thing, just before I get onto the topic that we're going to be talking about. I found an interesting thing this week, and I wondered if any of you have found this as well. What I did was I have a bottle of no sugar added jam. And I started to think to myself, you know, when I need to have like sweet and sour type sauce, instead of taking a plum sauce, maybe I should be making my own sweet and sour using a no sugar added jam for the sweetness of it. And you know me, it's like, I wonder. So I pulled out, I do have a bottle of plum sauce. And here are the numbers on it. And I thought some of you who I know are sort of trying to eat more healthily, I thought some of you would be interested in this. Plum sauce has 9 grams of sugar. No sugar added jam has 4 grams of sugar, which we know is the natural sugar in fruit. So half the grams of sugar for starters. Plum sauce is 3% carbs. No sugar added jam is 2% carbs. And plum sauce has 40 calories per tablespoon, whereas no sugar added jam only has 20. So basically, that little swap is one that you might want to think about. Am I the only one that's tried that, or has anybody else tried it? So whenever I want something a little sweet, I'm now trying to remember, take a tablespoon of jam and just put it over, something. Now, the next thing I'm going to look at is what is the difference between putting on, let's say, cream cheese frosting versus maybe just, putting a small layer of jam over the top of a cupcake. And by the way, I was mentioning last week that when I make cupcakes, I don't put any oil in them. I just use one egg. I do about 1/3 of a packet. I put in 1 egg, and then I put in applesauce. And it fluffs up beautifully. It's really amazing. But, you don't have to have, a cup of oil, which is a really good thing. So that's my new evening treat, is to make myself, a cupcake. So I thought I would mention that because it's important. Now then, the other thing I wanted to make sure, just before we get into the main subject, is don't throw your pen around. I did that last week, didn't I? Hang on a second. It's my stylus. Wait 1 second. There we go. And get into the habit of checking your budgets. And I really have to say that Lauren got me re-interested in that. Our friend Lauren in Tasmania, one of our viewers, is really good about checking her budget every month. And she's really good about doing things to help her budget. For example, when she starts to get out of control on her budget, she immediately stops any emails coming from things like Wish or Amazon or anything else. She just cuts those off completely. Jody is saying all those little swaps add up to a big calorie saving and much less sugar. That's what I thought, Jody, and that's why I thought every week I want to bring in my next experiment, and it's just a small swap. And even if you did it, a couple of times a week, you would obviously be saving, that many extra calories. And that's important for people to know that they can do that. You don't have to have huge changes. I found what I do now is, this is what I've been doing, is I allow myself, a portion of meat, maybe about this big. But then I have a cereal bowl about this big of vegetables. So this is how I do it. And in that cereal bowl, I allow myself a couple of slices of potato, just so, and I do a couple of slices of russet potato and a couple of slices of yams, because I really love yams. And then I just roast them all. But I fill it up with all the other vegetables. And my new one, as I was saying, is to put in cabbage and roast cabbage. Definitely. I have had more cabbage in the last couple of weeks than I've had in 20 years, maybe 30. Why? Because it's so tasty. And I throw, some really nice Chinese spices over it that gives it a really great taste. So think about that and the habits of checking your budgets. What I've found is that I am overspending my budget quite dramatically over Christmas and already into January. Now, I can tell you that part of that reason is because I had to rebuy a lot of things because I'm away from my house. And so I've sort of gave myself, a little bit of a pass on that one and just went, you did what you had to do in order to do the best you could for Christmas. And that's fine. Now, who knew that doing what I did for Christmas would cost that much? But it did. And so now I'm going to have to really tighten my belt a bit and just get back under control. I wonder how you guys are doing. Are any of you, back on track in terms of your budgeting? Or are you still, trying to pay off what you did at Christmas? I'd like some input on that if you can. So I'm going to give you a number of things that I just did a little bit of research and got some information that I thought you would, like to discuss or need to discuss about the sort of things that people who are being that are in an abusive relationship are likely to hear. And by the way, I'd like to apologize for my throat. I've had very little sleep in the last 24 hours. And the first place where that will manifest itself for me is in my voice. So I think I've got a bit of a cold anyway. So just forgive me that it's a bit raspy. So one of the things that you need to watch out for, if you are with somebody or somebody, it's also important for us to remember that you may know somebody that this is happening to, where they're getting what I call nasty generalizations. And I'll give you some examples, but nasty generalizations are a pretty sure sign that things are not good in the relationship. How about things like, you are always late, or you are always wrong, or you are always screwing up, or you're always so disagreeable. Anything that starts with always. Now, that generalization, I'd like you to be aware of it because maybe you do it. When you get upset, are you inclined to do those, what I call total generalization statements? And if you are, be aware that is not a good thing to do, right? Well, let me ask you, have any of you been in a relationship where somebody says that sort of stuff to you? You're always wrong, you're always late, and you're going, inside you're going, no, I'm not. But we don't verbalize it. So one of the things I'd like to recommend is if anybody uses, and I do that, if I hear somebody, talk about me and say, well, Sal's always doing X, Y, and Z. And I say, no, that's not true. Occasionally, yes, I'm a human being. Occasionally, that is true of me. But always, no, that is not true. That's false. So it is up to us to correct somebody who is making those generalizations. Just while I'm waiting for some more input here, Jodie's saying about getting on track. She said she's pretty much on track now in terms of controlling stuff, but the grocery budget went out the window this week. I need to be careful over the next 2 weeks. This week, we bought a few stock-up items and some expensive staples ran out. Yes, Jodie, I agree with you. And that is, I think I'd like to say that if you're buying the expensive staples, maybe in bigger quantities, so that you can get a better price overall, that's called an investment. But I've also decided that after the delivery that I've got coming in tomorrow, I'm going to try very hard to only bring food into the house every other week. And I think that will help me use up more of what I have, and also start using up some of the frozen stuff that I've got in the freezer. You know, I seem to have a lot of fresh food, vegetables and things, but I've also got a lot of frozen. And so I'm going to make it a point of at least, 2, maybe 3 times a week, actually pull frozen food out of the freezer and start using it again, because otherwise I'm going to be moving all this stuff to when I move back home. And, you both know, I mean, everybody knows that, my freezer's already full over there when I get there. And for those of you who don't know, my house caught on fire back on September the 23rd, and I'm presently living in rented accommodation until I can get back home, which probably won't be until April. So Jody, thanks for that update. I appreciate it. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was, how about somebody that's constantly judging you? Now, that would sound like, oh, you're useless. Or you're over emotional. And again, it's a global thing, right? It's a generalization, and it's nasty. So am I useless occasionally? Yep, I would agree with that. And that's how I would answer it. But am I useless all the time? That's not fair. Most of the time, I'm anything but useless. But are there times when I am a little bit useless? Sure. They're few and far between, quite honestly. How about over-emotional? You've heard me talk about this one before, because to me, I am an emotional person. And what is over-emotional? That's a judgment. That, yes, I'd like to say that's very subjective. It's like, to me, it's not over-emotional. I am an emotional person, and it's something that people value in me for a lot of reasons. So, being emotional is not necessarily a bad thing. If you're in a relationship and the person you're in a relationship with, and by the way, this can be a spouse, a boyfriend, a parent, anybody, and they are constantly yelling at you or screaming at you or swearing at you as a way to intimidate and make you feel small, that is abusive. And really, I think we had at least one of our viewers that was happening to, and we managed to let her see that was not to do anything to do with her. That was to do with them. Their lack of anger management caused them to yell and scream and swear nasty words and things at her. And she did a great job of just putting down her personal boundary and going, they can do their thing. I'm just not going to take it in anymore. And I'm really very, very proud of her for doing that. Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody who gets so frustrated that they pound the table or, God forbid, throw things? Another pretty telltale sign that somebody has major anger management problems. And from my personal experience, those people are the people who always have to be right. They get frustrated because you won't see things their way. And when you don't see things their way, that's how they deal with it. They don't agree to disagree. They get angry, very angry. Have any of you been in a relationship where the other person, gets physically that out of control? I was in a relationship once where somebody threw a glass, not at me, but close to me, and it shattered in the wall behind me. And I want to tell you that that was a pretty big eye-opener for me on that relationship. And I unfortunately, I was married, and I had never seen that level of anger. And I later found out, interestingly enough, that there was a reason for his anger, and it was about his guilt, not about me. And so, just be aware that these things are often telltale. How about people who don't, what can I say here? Their body language is patronizing or patronizing, depending which country you come from. They're like, oh yeah, fine. They're constantly looking at their watch. Like, have you finished it? Or they roll their eyes. Like, yeah. Or how about deep sighing? Or they're constantly going, stop. Or constantly drumming their fingers on something. Or how about yawning while you're talking to them? I call people out for that. I don't know what you do, but if somebody is, checking their watch, I will a lot. I mean, we all check our watch every now and then if we're lucky enough to have one. But if they're doing it more than, once every half hour or so, I will say to them, am I holding you up from something? Because your body language is telling me that, the time is more important to you than what I'm saying. All right, so call it out, because, and again, if they're honest, they'll say, well, actually, you've been talking about this rather a long time and I'd like to move on. Well, why didn't you just say that? What about the rolling of the eyes? Same thing. If I see somebody roll their eyes at me, I stop them and I go, I noticed you're rolling your eyes at me. What are you thinking that you're not saying? Because that's passive aggressive. I call it for what it is. And this, understand. So any of these things, if you see those behaviors going on, don't, you think it and then you start to feel bad. Oh my gosh, is he or she looking at their watch because I'm boring them? Or check it out. Don't question yourself, question them. And I had one person that I adore, that whenever I had a meal with them, they spent most of the meal on their cell phone texting. Now, they were a business person and I understood that. But the next time they invited me for dinner, I said, is there any way that you could manage an hour without constantly being on your phone? Because if so, I would love to come to dinner with you. Do you understand? I put the boundary down before I accepted the invitation. Now, you can say that's pretty rude, Sal, when they're inviting you to dinner. Well, I think spending a dinner on your cell phone when you've invited me to dinner is pretty rude as well. What do you think? How do you guys feel about that? So I will do that, or, I will not tolerate that anymore. And instead of feeling upset about it and keep quiet, I now call it for what I consider it to be. Now, I'm not trying to be rude. Yeah, interesting. Linda, hi, Linda. It's good to see you. Is that Linda from California or Linda from the UK? I think that's Linda from California, right? Linda saying, I want to show up authentic. I will bravely ask those questions. Yeah. So think about that. If you are not calling it out, then you are a victim. I used to be a really good victim, people. And now I'm not a victim anymore. And Jody's saying the same thing. I agree. I wouldn't accept that behavior either. Well, but my point, Jody, is if we don't tell them that we don't accept that behavior, why would they change? And so that person, that person that took me to dinner, what I noticed was, quite often during dinner, they had to go to the washroom. Well, I know why they went to the washroom. They they needed to get to their phone for some reason. But that to me was more acceptable. And of course, being me with my sense of humor, when they got back, I would say things like, I hope it wasn't anything serious. What? Well, I noticed you went to the washroom probably so you could look at your phone, right? I hope it wasn't anything serious. But I did find that more acceptable than sitting in front of me constantly, when you're trying in the middle of a conversation. Oh, Sharon is saying, I had some unexpected expenses recently, so that has killed my budget. Yes, but it's done, Sharon. And so time to start again. It doesn't take many months to get back on track, right? So I as I said, I was amazed. I probably, I definitely was shocked how much I'd gone over my budget for Christmas. And again, like you, it was unexpected expense that I hadn't really noticed how bad that had become, but it was. So now for the next couple of months, I'm going to be much more careful. And instead of buying stuff every week, I'm going to try and get stuff only every 2 weeks. And I'm only going to allow myself a budget for Amazon. My problem is that I also need to start buying stuff ready for when I move back to my house, because I won't have any sheets, a duvet, mattress, and all sorts of things. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to start rebuying those things so that when I do move back, that I've already got them. I don't have to then go and buy them. And so I will buy them and have them here and then, move back with them. So I'm not quite sure what I've lost, and I'm going to have a discussion with the insurance people about that, because, again, that'll help me understand what I need to buy. Yes, Linda, I totally agree. And for those of you listening to this on the replay, Linda's saying to me, I have spent most of my adult life going along in order to get along. I felt that being honest would leave me abandoned of friends. Well, you know what I found, Linda? And I just have to tell you this. My friends, my real friends, when whenever I ask them, why am I still your friend after all these years? They will say to me, Sal, because you tell the truth. I can always rely on you to tell your truth. Now, doesn't mean I'm right, but if somebody, is frustrating me, I'll let them know that. Hi, Jonas, good to see you. So you understand, I don't, I will say, look, I know this is my stuff, but, I've got one person that when I do on live chit-chatting with them, not Zoom, but I do it on Facebook. But, when I do that, they rarely look at the camera. They're always busy fidgeting, doing this and doing that. And, I'll tolerate it for a while, but after a while I go, am I really boring you that much? And they go, what? And I said, well, you're not in the present. You're busy doing stuff over there and stuff over here, and you're tidying up. And so I just want to know, why? And maybe we can discuss that. How do you feel when people don't give you their full attention when they're talking to you? Okay, Jonas, great comment. Jonas is saying, and there is a difference between speaking your mind and projecting. All right, so do you want to give everybody an example, Jonas? It's great that you understand about projection, but just give an example for people, because otherwise it becomes gobbledygook, and because not everybody understands what projection is. I'm just going to carry on while you're typing that, Jonas. Going back to people who are, what red flags should you look out for in terms of being in an abusive situation? If ever you're in a public place and they pick fights with you in public, or expose your secrets in public, or make fun of your shortcomings in public, big red flag. Hi, Autumn. Good to see you. How are our twins? Oh, Autumn is saying, I have a friend who only calls me if she needs something. Sort of related to this. Yes, I think it is sort of related to this, Autumn. I call that a pretend friend. Because it's only, you're useful to them. All right. And my question is, excuse me, my question would be, Autumn, why are they still a friend? Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that feedback. Linda is saying, I feel unimportant when my friends call, but they sound preoccupied. And Linda is updating us that the twins are still in there. Okay, and then she's talking about the pretend friend thing. And yes, she doesn't feel like she's my friend. No, that's not a friend. All right, that's a pretend friend. And it's okay to have pretend friends. Just don't, I had a pretend friend who told everybody I was her bestie. And, I would go, actually, from her side. But she definitely wasn't my bestie, and I wasn't going to pretend that she was. Because she used me a lot. Same thing, right? Jonas is saying, I feel like projection is a result of letting feelings fester and build rather than addressing and responding to those feelings as they arise. Yeah. So, but projection is, somebody pushing their anger and then making you the bad guy because of it, pushing their, it's sort of like projection is, somebody give me the right words for this. I can't win this argument, so what I will do is I will cut you off at the knees, sort of thing. And because you're angry, so you got to win, and the only way you can win is to do something nasty. So I think it's an important point, Jonas, and I would recommend that you all are aware, and that's why I call it out. That's why I say to people, hey, I notice that you're being a little bit passive aggressive. Is there something you want to say? Are you angry about something that you haven't told me about? And because I don't know what you're angry about, I'm not that clairvoyant. Autumn is saying about the friend, pretend friend, she doesn't have any friends, and I feel like I'm supposed to be a good example to her. Luckily, I know how to put boundaries in place. Good for you, Autumn. In which case, then it's healthy because you know what's going on and you're not invested in this friendship. And I think that is important, to be aware of that. And Jonas is saying, so when people project onto me, and by taking out their suppressed frustrations on me, I then try to excuse it as them, or they try to, and then they try to excuse as it just speaking their mind. I will tell them exactly that. Yeah. Nyash is saying, Mama Sal, speaking about those who expose your secrets in public. Back then I was going to cry, but now I would actually call them out on it. And Nyasha, you have grown so much. And I really, do give you full credit because you had a lot of people projecting their stuff onto you and getting angry. And you now know it's their stuff. It's their lack of control. It's not about you. And I'm so proud of you for being able to see the difference now. And so let me ask you, Jonas, you're saying that we need to make the distinction between our egos and our insight. So how do you draw that distinction? Right? how do you keep yourself in check? All right, so Jonas is also saying, and if you have a problem with me, I'd rather you address it in the moment that it happens, rather than have it build up resentment of which I'm not aware. Yes, we're not clairvoyant. And I have to say that, to me, that takes courage, and it also takes self-esteem, don't you think, Jonas? Because I need to be without fear that our relationship will be able to survive this. And so, to me, I have to decide: is this an important relationship to me? And if so, do I need to set this boundary now before this gets any worse? Or I will just say, hey, I noticed that over the last couple of conversations we've had, you've started to do this. Is there something going on in your life that I'm not aware of? Are you angry about something and I just happen to be the recipient of it? Because sometimes that can happen as well. So again, seek for that. I always say that to you. Excuse me, seek first to understand. Now, if that person, all right, so Jonas is going, I think it just goes back to the idea of awareness. I like the tweet you posted the other day, feel the feeling, don't become the emotion. I love that as well. Jonas, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Every now and then I see one and I think, yeah, that says it all. Feel the feeling, but don't become the emotion. So and honestly, there are times when people say things to me, and what I will say is, ouch. And they go, what? I go, I don't know if you meant it, but that actually was quite painful to me. It could be just my stuff, but did you mean to hurt me? I'll actually say that. Because I think it's important for people to know that, those things can be hurtful. Nash is saying, I'm no longer the pushover I used to be. Recently, a coworker told me to sit and wait for the boss to come on the job, but at the same time, everybody left to go home. Yeah, why did they single you out? I'll be interested to hear that. Beth, hi, Beth. Good to see you, honey. Beth is saying, sometimes my husband gets mad because of work calling me all the time, but I just tell him to get over it. It's part of my job. I do the best I can to balance, but some things cannot be helped. Yes, that's an important one, to set that boundary that way as well, Beth. I'm glad you mentioned that. I can remember when I got married and my then husband was spending a lot of time dealing with the ex-wife and the children, and I wasn't emotionally as grown up as I am in some ways now. And I remember that he actually stopped me in my tracks one day and he said, I just want to tell you, we weren't married actually at that time, but he said to me there and then, he said, I just need to tell you, this is me, and I have an ex-wife and three children. And if you are going to be jealous of the time I need to spend to look after my ex-wife and my three children, then, we need to stop this relationship, because they will always be part of my life. And, when I look back on it now, I thought that was a great way to get me to grow up. I didn't particularly like it at the time, but it was true. And I said afterwards to him, thank you. It was a great wake-up call. All right, so Nyasha's finishing her conversation here about the people that told her to wait for the boss, and she said, they left me there, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for anybody. So back then I would have stayed and said, okay, I think I still believe I'm the same person I once was. Oh, I think they still think that I'm the same person I was. Yeah, we know better, right? And how come they get to go home and you don't? I'd say, it's something I don't know. Beth is saying, he was one of the ones who encouraged me to take the position, So to complain about it now is not acceptable. He is in the adjustment stage still, yes. And that's one of the problems with management, isn't it? And especially at the level that you are fast becoming. In retail, management requires a horrible encroachment on your personal life. But on the other hand, maybe it is a discussion you need to have with Charles in terms of, how much that is affecting him, because you don't want this to also affect your marriage. Here's another one. How about people who insult your appearance? And they tell you just before you're about to go out that your hair is ugly or that your outfit is clownish, nasty, So on the other hand, do you want people to lie to you? No. But if this is, if they say it about every time you go out, they criticize your appearance or what you're wearing, that's a pretty sure sign that things are not good. And I wonder if any of you have had that in your lives where you were in a relationship with somebody who did that. I definitely was in a relationship where my taste in things was always downplayed, be it in furniture or whatever. And I really could feel what that was doing to my self-esteem. So Beth is saying about her work, she said, I'm still training my assistant, so in time she will be able to address certain issues with confidence without getting my approval. In time, I will be more available at home. Patience is key. Yes. So, but the problem as well, and Beth, and this to be true, that you can spend the next 6 months or even a year training that person, and just when you think it's time for everything to be okay, she up and leaves and you're back at square one again. So my philosophy as a manager always was, it's a bit like I say about my grocery cupboard. I always have an heir and a spare. Always be training 2 people, not 1. All right, so that if one leaves, you haven't got to retrain the second one. Does that make sense, Beth? I always, whenever I took on a new management position, one of the first meetings I would have with the staff is I would literally stand there and go, okay, now who wants my job? And they would look at me and go, what? And I said, I want to know who wants my job. And they'd sort of, I said, no, the reason I want to know who wants it because I want to know who to train. I don't want to be training the wrong people who don't want the responsibility or the time commitment or whatever. So who wants my job? Because I'll start training you starting tomorrow. And Beth is saying, I'm currently training the lead associate. She actually knows more than my assistant. I almost want to promote her and demote my assistant. Yeah. And can you do that? The question is that, you might want to get some things in writing with your assistant, what your expectations are of her, because it sounds to me like your assistant is not coming up to the level you would like her to. So what if she doesn't really understand that? Maybe, just have a little word with her to start with, and if she's still not getting it, put it in writing so she knows that this is important. Have any of you been in a relationship where the other person said that your hobbies were childish or a waste of time? Or you shouldn't do this sport because, you're way out of your league? I've had that. And, when I think about some of these things, I wish I had known then what I know now. because, I would have just said, hey, it's called a hobby. And what I would do is like, this is my choice. You have your hobbies. That's your choice. Interesting, Beth saying, yes, I can. I talked to my district manager about my assistant and what was lacking. He said, go shopping, as in get somebody else instead of her. So I have full support. Yes, but what I'm saying as a human being, Beth, and maybe the viewers can talk to this as well, that if I were the assistant and suddenly somebody else got the job I thought I was going to have, without me knowing that I was failing at something or not coming up to scratch, I think I'd be quite upset. So I just, may want to consider just, having a cup of coffee with her one day, or, taking a bit of time to take her aside and say, hey, I know you want this job, but this is where I'm feeling you're not quite ready for it yet. I'm not saying you won't ever be, but I don't feel that you're quite ready because of, your time management, or, you're not doing enough to look for things to do, or, whatever it is that you feel she's not doing correctly. I personally think as a human being, I would like somebody to say that to me. Wouldn't you? How would you feel if you thought you were next in line for district manager and suddenly somebody, got promoted over the top of you for some reason without you knowing that you weren't actually coming up to speed, Beth? I always try to put, how would I feel if the situation were reversed? Makes sense. So what would you like your district manager to do if you were not, and we know it's a no-brainer, but if you weren't coming up to the right standard, what would you like your district manager to do? Keep quiet about it? Oh, that's great. And I'm not surprised, Beth. I'm eating coffee grounds. Beth is saying, I've been counseling her on issues to work on and what needs progress. Good. The ultimate goal is for my store to succeed. She understands my position and she's still not trying to work with me. Okay, so not everybody can. Even though we think they can, they're not mature enough to take on that sort of responsibility, Beth. Doesn't make them a bad person, right? As your boss said, next. Now, I wonder, does anybody have any more comment to make about this red flag business if you're in a relationship that's a little bit abusive, and what to do about it? Because this would be a good time. I'm about to change subject, so. What I wanted to ask is, in terms of everything that happened at the Capitol this year, I decided I was going to do a little bit of research on a couple of words. And one was sedition. It's a word that got thrown around a lot last week. And I wondered how many people understand what it is. And so I thought, for the sake of my viewers, because I know you're always learning, I would just give you the official definition of the word, okay? And the official definition is that if the federal law against seditious conspiracy can be found in Title 18 of the U.S. Code, which includes treason, rebellion, and similar offensive. Specifically, it is 18 of the U.S. Code and paragraph 2384. Here you go. According to the statutory definition of sedition, it is a crime for two or more people within the jurisdiction of the United States to conspire to overthrow or destroy by force the government of the United States or to level war against them. And it goes on to oppose by force the authority of the United States government, to prevent, hinder, or delay by force the execution of any law of the United States. Remember, that riot happened as they were busy trying to ratify the incoming president, right? So that's the paragraph: to oppose by force the authority of the United States government, to prevent, hinder, or delay by force the execution of any law of the United States. So that is what I think the paragraph that they all will be quoted. And to also, it says, to take, seize, possess by force any property of the United States contrary to the authority. Now, when you hear that definition, do you understand why they kept using the word sedition? And while you're answering that, I want to go back to something that Linda just put in there, and she was talking about that friend. She's saying, I had a friend criticize my outfit at a party. Her words were like a punch in my gut because I thought I looked lovely. It took a few years for me to grow up and leave. Yeah, but on the other hand, Linda, if you were wearing an outfit and your bestie actually did think that it didn't look good on you, would you want her to let you know that? Or would you prefer that she pretend otherwise? Part of me goes, my friends, if my friends ask me, how do you like my new dress? I'll go, do you want me to be polite? If I really don't like it, I will say, would you like me to be polite? Because, to me, I'm not mad about it, but it's not important what I feel. It's important what you feel, right? Yvonne, you all know my friend Yvonne, she had a haircut. She'd had hair down to here, and she had a haircut in this bob. And it, quite honestly, at the time that she did it, it looked totally wrong for the shape of her face. And I remember she came to me and said, well, what do you think? And I said, quite honestly, it's going to take me a little while to get used to that. Because I didn't want to lie and say I think it looked great, because I didn't. There you go, Linda. You see, that's why I wanted to ask you. In answer to the question, would you want your friend to lie? Linda said, I want my friend to be honest without the sneering and eye roll that I got. There you go. That is the difference. And quite honestly, Linda, that's what my friends say to me. The reason that I have been a friend to them for so long is they know if they ask me a straight question, I will tell them my truth. Right? Right? And you'll be amazed how many times I have to say, are you sure you want to ask me that question? I've said that to people. Are you sure you want to ask me that question? And they go, yeah, Sal, that's why I'm asking. Everybody else will be polite, but you'll tell me the truth. And I go, no, it's not the truth. It is just my truth. And there's a difference in that. Just because I don't like it isn't important. It's, do you like it? All right, so now I thought some of you might like to know, what is the difference between sedition, and I just read you the definition of that. What about treason? Where is treason different? All right, so this is the definition under the US Code. This is the definition of it. Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or be imprisoned and for not less than 5 years, and fined under this title for not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. And that, I think, is an important definition. Now, I heard I heard the words, and we will march on the Capitol, and the word war was used by some of those rioters. I saw an incredible interview this afternoon from the lawyer of the one guy that, I don't know if you saw it, he picked up a fire extinguisher and threw it at the cops. And it bounced off the head of one cop and then hit a couple of others. It apparently was empty, or that's what was said. And the lawyer is trying to say, well, it wasn't really a weapon. It was, just an empty fire extinguisher. And I must admit, I had to smile because the interviewer said, hey, let me go get, an empty fire extinguisher and hit you, and let me throw it at you because, it was thrown. Let me throw it at you and see what sort of a headache you get from that. And you decide whether that's a weapon or not. It's just like, hello. And then the lawyer also was trying to say, well, he was just caught up in the moment and he's a good guy and da 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 da. Hey, he made a decision to pick up, a fire extinguisher and throw it at the police. And, the policeman got hurt. So, hello. That's Jody. I just burst out laughing. No, it's just an empty fire extinguisher. Have you picked up an empty fire extinguisher? No, it's not made of plastic, guys. It's made of metal. It's heavy. So I would really encourage you as well, in terms of coping with your life, to make sure that you, did anybody else check out the word sedition this week? I just want to know if any of you, or did you all feel you really knew what it meant? Because part of what I really encourage you to do is when you hear these words thrown out, say to yourself, I think I know what it means, but I was pretty sure I knew what sedition was about. But even so, I thought, I don't know what the definition is in the USA. And so I went and found the code, and that's all I typed in. What is the USA code on sedition? And it popped up. There it was. So I really do ask you to have a good look at these things. Yes, Jody, I'm not surprised. Jody looked up sedition, insurrection, and treason. Yes, because now you're playing with the full deck. Good. Linda also did. I'm so proud of you guys. Linda said I looked up the definition to see if it matched my own, and did it, Linda. I was quite surprised because when I read the definition of treason and it mentioned that you declare war, that really made the hair on the back of my neck go up, because I heard those words used. We're going to the Capitol we're going, what's the word? We're at war with the administration, or whatever they said. That word was used. So now I'm hearing that it's all protected by the First Amendment. That apparently is going to be the thing that they're all going to hide behind. And, that is in terms of the White House, their side is going to say, well, it's the First Amendment. I'm entitled to say that. I don't think you're entitled to say, I want you to go and march on the Capitol, and I don't want you to do it peacefully. That was said. I don't want you to do it peacefully. You need to have courage, and don't be peaceful. That's inciting people to riot and to be violent. And so, it'll be very interesting when this eventually goes to court, which it will. And now, of course, you remember the argument I said last week that I thought some people would use as their defense, and they're doing it already, that their commander-in-chief told them to do that. They were obeying orders. I had a feeling that was going to come up, that they would quote him as commander-in-chief, and that they saw themselves to be his soldiers. Interesting. Well, I'm actually in a way, I'm looking forward to seeing these go to trial, because it'll be interesting to see how the law sees that. I think I'm going to learn a lot. So did any of you learn anything new this week? Or are you planning to do anything new this week? I've decided this week I want to try potatoes Romanoff. I have never done that. And that's where you have mashed potato and you put in all sorts of things like cheese and cream. And I've sort of done a version of it, but I've decided I'm going to take a recipe and actually try and make it. Now, I'm pretty certain that it won't be too slimming, but it did sound so good. And so I've also got pavlova on my list too. I've got all the ingredients now to be able to do pavlova, so I'm quite excited about that. I'll need to do a lot of walking this week, won't I? Anybody planning to be adventurous and try something new this week? Now, I was saying at lunchtime that I was really proud of myself for actually making the time to sit down and get my paints out and start making a mess, because I definitely didn't have the time. I had to literally say, Sal, stop everything you're doing. And it is really important that today you do something creative. And, some of you probably saw, and I'm going to show this again, but some of you probably saw that this is one of the things that I painted. And the reason that I'm showing it is under the title of Reuse and Recycle, because I painted this on a flap of an Amazon box. Now, when that goes into a frame, by the way, have you noticed how I didn't cut it straight? I couldn't find my ruler. So do you understand that you don't have to wait until you can afford canvases? If you want to paint. And that's what I did. And I've always wanted to be able to paint a cityscape. And now I've done one. Yay. So all right, Autumn is saying, I'm glad you changed the subject. All the political problems are really stressing me out, understandably. I can't even look at any news anymore. That's a very good thing, to limit the amount of news you watch. I tried a new recipe this week. What did you try, Autumn? Linda's saying, I want to make my own simple exercise program and not rely on the experts. Very good idea. Linda, what I found is the same way as Jody talked to me about this in terms of, lowering my use of sugar. It's really important for us all to find out what works for us. If you remember, I really struggled with the exercise thing until I found the Wii Fit and the Wii. I started doing the Wii yoga, and then I realized I could do the walking thing. I was doing 10 minutes of yoga every day. And then I started to do some of the more aerobic things, and I started to enjoy that. And then, now I'm up to, I was saying at lunchtime, I did 45 minutes this week, and 30 minutes of it, if you can believe it, was stepping up and down to a metronome type, that was making sure I was keeping on pace. You could hear the tick, 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 tick going, and I was literally stepping on and off at the fastest speed that the program allowed. I did about the first third at a slower speed, and then I ramped it up. By halfway there, I was up to the full speed, and I did the whole of the last. So I think it's really important that we each find what we can do. Jody, who cannot walk she cannot stand for more than a couple of minutes, she has found this routine of being able to do the arm rolls and leg exercises. it's still aerobic for her, right? It's because we've proven that doing this just does increase your heart rate. So find out what you can do. I found out, for example, that I can walk for 3/4 of an hour or half an hour, and then I'll put on one of the fun exercises, or not exercises, one of the fun games on the Wii, which is on the resort program. It has cycling, but the way you cycle is you're holding two things and you're going like this. And boy, I want to tell you, does that push my heart rate up? And you're busy trying to take corners and not fall off the edge of a mountain. I've fallen off a number of times, people. Luckily, it doesn't keep you there for long. But it's like, it doesn't matter. It's about, are you moving? Autumn is saying that what she cooked was white chicken enchilada casserole. It wasn't too healthy, but it was delicious. Well, again, what I've discovered is that sometimes it is, in a way, healthier to have one of these supposedly unhealthy meals because you're inclined not to have it every day. And have any of you found that? So I find that, once a week, I allow myself a mac and cheese type meal. I just don't have too much of it, but and that's, you guys remember I bought that really small little baby crock pot. It's about this big. And I will make mac and cheese in that. Why? Because that's as much as I make. That's as much as I will eat. Does that make sense? It's just like, if I make a big thing of it, yeah, I'll eat more. So I just entered this week. I was doing something, and what I decided was I want some pasta, but I literally took 2 handfuls and cooked that. It was about a cup. By the time I cooked it, it was about a cup of pasta. So it's not that we can't have it. That's what Jody taught me. It's not that we can't have it. Just, don't have as much and don't have it as often. Yeah, Jody's saying, I think that's healthy approach to keeping on track overall. Yeah, I think, Jody, the way you talked about it to me was, you've got to be able to live, and if you happen to be somebody that really likes pasta, go for whole wheat pasta. Or if you really like, enchiladas and stuff, sure, have them once a week. Just don't have 6, Just, try and keep it down to 1. The other thing I found is, when I'm making stuff like that, when I do the ground beef and stuff, I put equal amounts of ground vegetables in. If I've got this much ground beef, I will put this much ground vegetable in with it, things like onions and leeks and, stuff, whatever, celery, all those sort of things. I will do carrots, I will just grind those up as well and then have an equal amount so that I know it is at least half of it's healthy. But you don't notice it because it looks just like ground beef. By the way, the birthday is coming up next week. We've got Erin's birthday on the 26th, and we've got Becca's on the 28th, for those of you who know Becca, that go back a while. Now, I was saying at lunchtime that I did something yesterday that really frustrated me. I went all the way down 4 floors because the recycling and garbage and everything here is down 4 floors. And I went all the way down and then realized I'd forgotten my organic bin. I have a little green organic bin, and I'd forgotten to take it with me. So I was a bit frustrated. But what I wanted to remind you all is, how quickly are you changing that thinking? In other words, I immediately said, you've got a choice here. You can go back and just bring that organics down tomorrow, or you can go back, go get it, and see it as extra exercise. Which do you prefer? Give yourself a choice. Does that make sense to people? Give yourself a choice. Don't go, oh, I've forgotten it, I'm such a stupid person or whatever. I went, okay, apparently I need more exercise. So do I want to have that extra exercise today, or do I want to do it tomorrow? And the funny thing was, because I immediately changed my thinking about it, I got back up here, I grabbed the organics, went all the way back down again, emptied it, and felt really proud of myself. Jody's saying, I count every gram of protein and carbs for 6 days a week. 1 day a week, I have no agenda with my food other than yum. The yum factor. I think that's so cute. Beth is saying, I'm supposed to get my COVID shot soon because of being an essential worker. A little nervous about it, but what are the long-term effects? They don't know. And it is not required, but I'm still deciding. I was saying at lunchtime, Beth, I only know of one person that's had it in my circle of friends, and it's actually my friend Marnie's grandfather on her mother's side, her mother's father, and he's 99, and he had his COVID shot, and he said he was stunned that it didn't hurt, and he had no after effects. He did have the Pfizer one. Now, talking about that, I was hearing today that apparently, they were meant to release this many shots and then hold back this many so people could have their second shot of that Pfizer thing, that apparently there is no reserves. I was hearing that today. Did anybody else hear that? So be careful if you are up for the vaccination. Now, I did hear that apparently Pfizer's working pretty hard to make sure that they can get enough vaccine out to replace it all. But there's part of me that goes, given a choice, I think I'd go for the one where I only need 1 dose, not where I need 2. Oh, and Beth is saying, I forgot to say that the store next to us was shut down because 4 employees out of 5 tested positive. Now, that's a bit close to home, Beth. So, and also, Beth, remember that you've got underlying conditions as well. So I think, your choice, it's your body. But if you get the chance to have it, I would, I'd like you around, Beth. Yeah, and she's saying that those people next door are regular customers as well. Okay, so be careful, honey. And I'm more concerned about you, even though you're a frontline worker, but more concerned because of your underlying conditions. How often do you get tested, Beth? She's saying she tested negative. Yeah, Autumn's saying, I think it depends on each person's body. And that's why, I'm doing what I can to exercise, to eat more fruit and vegetables, to lower my stress levels. I didn't do well on getting enough sleep last night. Some bozo woke me up after a couple of hours and I just couldn't get back to sleep. And I'm going, oh no, on a Friday and I can't get back to sleep. The one day that I wear myself out is on a Friday and 2 hours sleep. And then I decided, okay, fine, I do it for December. I can do it. Yeah, I just have to get my mind in the right place. And I did manage to get about an hour and a half sleep in this afternoon. So, Jody, did you get any sleep this afternoon? Because Jody also had a really bad night. Oh, of course, Beth. I forgot that you actually have had COVID. So Beth is saying she donated her plasma for antibodies, so they are checking me more often because you have the antibodies. Wow. You're such a hero, really, Beth, on so many levels. Autumn also had a horrible night's sleep. I wonder what's, is Mercury in retrograde or something? Jody's saying it's always Thursday nights with us. I don't think it's always. Oh, Jody's saying she took a little nap about 20 minutes. Well, you'll be able to get a longer one. And the stupid thing is, I don't know if you find that, Jody, but by the time I finish the broadcast, I'm regenerated again, and then I can't get to sleep because I can't slow my body down. But, will my voice make it for another half hour? I'm not sure about that. Right. And Autumn's saying, I slept badly because I'm 37 weeks pregnant with 2 big boys. I can't roll over anymore. Do we know their names yet? There you go. Jody's saying, apparently Mercury is in pre-retrograde. It's about to go into retrograde. That's what I wondered, Jody. And that would account for, we can blame everything on that now. Oh, the boys are going to be called Enoch and Elias. Isn't that wonderful? Jody, please take a note so that I can put them into, or in fact, Jody, get their names into the birthday list, and then, we can put the date when we know the date. Beth, I noticed that we've got your twins in the birthday list. It's Victoria and I can never remember your other daughter's name. Catherine. Thank you, honey. All right, so Jody, can you update that as well? I know that they're in our list, but I didn't have their names attached to it. Who is on Feb 17? Oh, the twins. Oh, that's why I saw the name. Okay, so that is Sunday. That's awesome. And they're all grown up, we know that, but it's just like, I know it's important to you. We don't have Charles's birthday. Oh, isn't that interesting? Autumn is saying that her mum's birthday is on Sunday. I hope that the boys would be born on her birthday. Maybe they will. We don't know, right? We have no idea. But the good news is whenever they get born, it's going to be pretty close. So that's helps as well. Oh, right. Charles's birthday is 9/11. Yes. I'd forgotten that. Now that you mention it, and we've got somebody else whose birthday is 9/11. A couple of people, I think. Good stuff. Okay, Jody, so if we can make a note, that's Charles's birthday as well. So what I found is that life this week has been pretty roller coastery. I feel like I've managed to keep control, but sort of only just. Do any of you relate to that? It wouldn't have taken a very strong wind to push me off course a lot this week. And that's why I'm glad that I sat down and painted, because I really do believe that doing that creativity just helps balance. Oh, I want you to show you guys one of the things I got in the unboxing department. I got some silicone stirrers for my artwork and also to do swiping and things. And I bought little stir sticks to stir up my paints with, but they're silicone. And also I can stir, up my paints with this. Now what I like is that eliminates the need for all the, popsicle sticks and everything else, because the paint falls off this really easily. Where my little stir sticks are. However, what I've also discovered, I've already been using the little stir sticks for cooking, and I'm pretty certain I will use these Yes, they do look like spatulas for spreading icing on cakes, right? And that's, you know, sometimes when I'm doing art, I didn't use them for this because I hadn't got them yet, but that's really useful to actually put paint like this and then move it across and, you know, to get that straight line. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's going multi-purpose for the win. Well, you know, it's funny, isn't it, how spoiled we are? Because I noticed that the kitchen equipment that is in the apartment here, you know, the lifters are plastic, and I literally could see that the lifters were, you know, literally melting as I used them, and I'm going, that's not healthy. And so what I did was I put them away, and I bought myself a set of silicone things for, you know, lifters and spatulas and things. I got a small silicone set. I feel much more comfortable. I have no idea the health risks of using silicone. Does anybody know? Is there a health risk to using them? I've got a feeling it's got to be better than melted plastic. I want to just remind you all again that, and this is a quote, one of my quotes, which is, I know I want to do it when I stop giving excuses and just work on it. You know, I knew that I wanted to paint when I stopped 1,001 excuses and just painted. And I went, okay, you definitely wanted to paint and you can prove it. And you didn't wait for canvas, you just painted. And, you know, to me, I think some of the things on our to-do list we need to drop forever. Because you obviously, if it's been there for a long time and you haven't done it, maybe you don't want to do it. On the other hand, as I said at lunchtime today, this is a very big week for me. A year ago today, I moved into Sunshine Cottage. 4 months ago, I moved out of it because of the fire. And, you know, in another couple of months, hopefully I'll be able to go home again. But as some of you probably can understand, there's part of me, I'm a bit scared to go back now. And it's going to seem so big after living in 900 square. Actually, I don't even think this is 900 square feet, maybe. You know, it's just like, you know, it's going to seem so big by comparison. And then the other thing that I said at lunchtime, and I'd just like to let you all know, is that on the 12th was the 8th anniversary of my giving up smoking. So that was a huge milestone for me. And again, I am really in awe of the fact that when all the stresses happened around my house that I didn't even think to pick up a cigarette, I am so grateful for that. All right, Autumn is saying, my family all uses silicone because most plastic has latex and my sister has a severe latex allergy. Thank you for the input, Autumn. Jody is saying silicone rubber can be used indefinitely at 150 degrees C. Okay, what's that in Fahrenheit? Because thank you for doing it in Canadian, well, worldwide temperatures, but what is that in Fahrenheit so people can understand? With almost no change in its properties, it withstands use even at 200 degrees C for 10,000 hours. Some products can withstand heat of 350. Wow. That is amazing. So that's, all right, so thank you, Jody. So we're saying that then, no problem. As long as it is silicone, which, you know, it has a different feel to it, right? It's soft. What? But I'm trying to work out what have they got inside it that gives it that strength. That's probably plastic inside. But I must admit that it feels totally different when you cook with silicone spatulas. I don't know why, it feels totally different. Thank you, Linda. Linda's saying congratulations on quitting smoking. Well, that's why I wanted to just say, have a look at your goals. Do you know how long I had that goal on my list, Linda? Over 30 years. Over 30 years that I want to give up smoking was on my list. And I tried everything that they ever came up with to quit. And then 8 years ago, I did it. And so the same thing about exercise. I was saying at lunchtime, we need to be so aware that if you're constantly coming up with excuses why you can't exercise, then you don't want to. Because I found that I wanted to, therefore I got what I needed and did it. And I've now done 64 days of exercise. But I haven't lost weight. How is that possible? And one of the things is it was Christmas time, but also Jody is busy reminding me that I am building muscle where I haven't had muscle. And, that's going to take a while for the body to take the stuff and turn it into muscle before it starts getting rid of it. So, and here is the interesting thing. If you had said to me 60 days ago, Sal, you're going to be able to step nonstop for 30 minutes within a month or so, I would have laughed at you. I literally would have laughed at you. Why? If you remember, I was excited because I managed to walk the whole way around the island on that gizmo in my Wii Fit. I was so excited because I walked all the way around the island. Now, this is the difference. Now, if I go to that particular part of the program, I walk the island 3 times. Once is just a warm-up. The second time I go even faster, and the third time I really push it. And it's like, I find that so incredible. Jody was telling me that she also is finding that. I said to her, because she can't stand, she's doing the arm roll and leg exercises, but she's not saying I have to do 20 minutes or something. She just, started at 10 minutes a day to see if she could have the discipline to put in 10 minutes a day, even if it's 5 and 5, hey, Jody. And it's so funny because she's now up to 20, not because she pushed herself to do it, just that when she's doing it, she can feel that she's built some strength. And she, her mind's saying, you can do a bit more, add a couple more minutes on. And now she's up to 20. Jody's saying, I remember you saying it's been 10 days. You've been very consistent, and that's a great achievement. I want to tell you something, Jody. I actually almost cried when I did it. I'm just going to, where was it? Right here. So half an hour of stepping, was 2,750 steps. I made sure that I took a picture of that. I was so proud of myself. Who would have thunk it, hey? It's great for the mind. I want to say that that's what I've discovered as well. I find that the first 10 minutes are in some ways the most difficult. Once you get into the sort of zone, I've heard people talk about getting into the zone and thought, yeah, right. But you really do, you sort of get into the zone. And now I can, for example, I haven't done my exercise yet today, but after the broadcast is finished, I will put something on the television and I will just walk while I'm watching it. I might even step while I'm watching it because But, for those of you who can remember a year ago, remember how much I was struggling on my left-hand side. Remember I was struggling so much with edema. My feet were swelling up. All these sort of things. So I have noticed, though, if I don't wear my shoes, my edema comes back. I can feel it within a day. If I decide, I think I'll just potter around and not put shoes on today, I can feel my feet start to swell. And Jody's saying, here you talk about enjoying your exercise so much really inspired me. Well, it blew me away, quite honestly, Jody, and it still does, that I actually have to say that I do enjoy it. And I don't necessarily have to put on a virtual walk, but as you found out, it's a nice distraction. I've actually got enough discipline about it going now that I just go, okay, fine, what am I going to watch while I'm doing this? And yesterday I gave myself permission to just play games, right? I didn't have to do the walking or the yoga or anything. I just literally spent 3/4 of an hour playing games. The cycling, I'm sure you uses a lot of that. And then I was, can't remember the other thing I was doing, but I think I played some tennis and I did some bowling, and they all, put up my heart rate. So I warm up with bowling, get the blood pumping, and then I will do some cycling because that's aerobic. And then what was the third one? Tennis, that's aerobic as well. It's surprising, actually. So this is, but the point that I'm trying to make, though, is because I want to do it. Do you understand that? It's not that I have to. The reason I have found the time to do it is because I genuinely wanted to do it. The reason I have a piece of artwork behind me this week is because I made the time to do it. Not that I had the time, I made the time to do it. And I want to tell you, I felt so good for having done it. So I also must admit that I get some joy out of being able to send, that little picture off to Benji and go, see, Benj, I managed to do this much stepping. Because he knows what an effort that it would be for me. And I think that's, that's part of my joy, is to be able to, let people know it's possible to do. By the way, if you want to put on music and just dance for, a few songs, that's good exercise, if you want to do that. But I really recommend that you are, especially while we're in the pandemic, and we're not getting out as much and we're just not doing as much. I found, as you know, that my steps dropped by half when I moved into the smaller apartment. And it was one of the reasons I wanted the bigger place rather than a box, because I knew I needed the exercise. Right, does anybody have anything that they particularly would like to talk about this week before I sort of go on to the quotes and things? I found some interesting quotes about relationships that could be abusive, and I thought some of you might relate to them and some of you might like them to pass on to other people. First one I found was, if he makes you lose your family, lose your friends, lose your confidence, lose your self-esteem, or lose your happiness, then you need to lose him or her. Well, Linda's saying, I appreciate your time. Thank you. And I, in turn, appreciate yours, Linda, because, talking to myself would be really boring. And also, I know that we all appreciate Jody's time. For somebody who's had 2 hours sleep, she's doing an awesome job. How about this one? I really like this quote. It says, It is better to break your own heart by leaving an abusive relationship rather than having that person break your heart every day. I want to tell you, I really related to that one. I've been there, where I can remember every day feeling small in a relationship, because I was made to, feel small. And I didn't have the self-confidence at the time, even though I was highly successful. I was so scared of losing this person in my life that it took me quite a while before I started to protect myself. And I realized that I'd become a victim, and that really stunned me. And how about this one? Do you feel alone in your relationship? Abusers isolate their partner from friends and family and make them dependent financially, socially, and physically. Yep, I had that one. And here's this one. At any moment, you have the power to say, this is not how the story is going to end. I can remember just going, that's enough. That is enough. And even though I'd only been married a year, that is enough. This is not healthy. I knew it wasn't healthy, and I knew I'd become a victim. And as I said, it wasn't that I was stupid. I was a fairly smart cookie, but I just did not understand what I understand today. And Beth is saying, I held myself back for years and made myself feel small. Now that I have morphed into what I need to be happy, I don't let anyone tell me what to do with my life. Freedom is living. I so agree with you, Beth. Oh, and Jody's saying the quote about isolation. I lived that as well. Yes. And, I was, my family was all, or a lot of my family was back in Africa, and I was here. My mother and my brother lived in Africa. And I was moved to Canada. I had no family here. It was very lonely. And so I relate. How about this one? Can any of you remember, stop telling yourself you can fix him? He's been this way for a long, long time, and he doesn't intend to change. Save yourself instead and get out while there's still time. Yeah, I always think of O.J. Simpson. But it's interesting. I cannot tell you how arrogant I was to think that if I loved them enough, they would change. Yeah, I know better now. And I do the same with my friends. Oh, this is a good beating tool. I must admit that I now feel the same way about my friends. My friends have to have different qualities today. In the old days, anybody could be my friend, but now, no. I need different things in my friends. They need to be strong enough to tell me the truth. They need to be, they need to be aware of my faults and not enable them. That's what a friend is to me. All right. So I have a different benchmark than the one I did. I quite often will say to Jody, I'm not going to ask you your opinion on this because I know that you are so loyal. You will just, automatically support me on this. And I love her to bits. And I do count Jody as a friend. But, it's a different sort of friendship because of that. How about this one? You can't change someone who doesn't see an issue in their actions. Have any of you, I can remember in my first marriage, my husband had me go to a psychiatrist because apparently I had a problem. And the funniest thing was, I did. I went. And I literally was talking to the psychiatrist for a while, and the psychiatrist said, interesting. So your husband sent you to be evaluated by me, is that right? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I can tell you what's wrong with you. Oh, by the way, this was important. One of the conditions under which I got married the first time was if I needed to give up working. I was the first female sales manager of the largest publishing company south of the equator. And one of the conditions of getting married was that I would give up working. And when I talked to this shrink guy, he said to me, I can tell you what's wrong with you. You're bored out of your mind. Your biggest decision every day is what powder to put in your washing machine. He said, you're used to making really big decisions and making them in a hurry. And, if there's anything wrong with you, which I don't think there is, he said, you're bored out of your mind. You were not born to be a housewife. and I said, oh, thank you. He said, you may want to send your husband in. I think I need to have a talk to him. I thought that was really supportive. Beth is saying, if I love myself more, I can change. You can only change yourself, not others. Well done, Beth. I did it for myself. You're right. You can't change anyone that doesn't want to change. They have to want to. And that includes us. Oh, Linda saying, it sounds like your husband was good at gaslighting. I had two of them. I didn't do it once, Linda. I did it twice. I'm a slow learner. I literally, and they both had the same name, first name. Can you believe that? And they had birthdays. They were both Aries. It was just like, if you keep doing the same thing, Sal, you're going to keep having the same result. It took me a while to work that out. But I haven't done it since, How about this one? How many of you believe this? You're in a relationship to be happy, to smile, to laugh, to make good memories, not to be constantly upset, to feel hurt and cry. I can remember locking myself in the bathroom a number of times. I was so miserable. And how about this one? There is no safe way to remain in a relationship with a person who has no conscience. The only solution is to escape. Yeah. Autumn is saying, the stories I hear of abusive relationship blow my mind. I am so lucky to have been spared from abusive romantic relationships. I can remember, I've got horror stories I could tell you about how stupid, and I say how stupid I was. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't know any better. And I always say to people now, you can't blame somebody for something they didn't know. And even if they knew it and didn't, have any of you found this, that you can intellectually understand something, but you haven't got it in your soul yet? That's like smoking. I knew smoking was a bad thing to do, but I hadn't worked out what to do instead. And it took me that long to work out how to live without smoking. I guess, and when I think about it, was it true that when I really found myself and my power, I was able to stop smoking? Interesting question. Beth is saying, I'm surprised my husband stayed with me. I was holding him back because I wanted to stay in my black hole. Yeah, but you're pretty awesome, Beth. I told Charles, he's not stupid, right? Now, I am certain that every now and then he shakes his head and wonders why he did, because, and because you really are such a competitive person, Beth. It's delightful. And you give him a big hug from me, please. Would you do that? I just want to see you stop and give him a big hug and then go, no, actually, that was from Sal. How about this one? Do any of you relate to this? Mental abuse is much more painful than physical abuse because you are consumed by your own thoughts. Oh, God. I can remember that so well. Like this one. The moment that you start to wonder if you deserve better, you do. I think that's true of anything, though. You know, I could stand and look in the mirror and go, my goal is to be overweight, not obese. And then I look in the mirror and go, well, what are you doing about it? Are you just going to stand and look in the mirror every day and say that? Or are you going to do something? Because what you're doing isn't working. You know, that's the difference. Mental abuse is horrendous. And, you know, I've been there. And you know, and the funny thing is, if you live with a narcissist, which I did, you know, and if you try and call them on the fact that they are mentally abusing you, they just roll their eyes and tell you you're stupid, you know. So, you know, where can you win on that one? So, did any of you see that movie with J-Lo called Enough? That I really understood that movie. Beth is saying my goal was to be perfect, but it wasn't working for me. Perfect is boring. Was late on discovering that. Yeah, you know, Beth, I was trying to be, you know, the perfect superwoman, which is why I relate to you so much, Beth. You know, I was, you know, working 18-hour days and trying to be the perfect wife. Well, hello. It's impossible, you know, and live with a narcissist at the same time. I mean, hello. Who was I kidding? And how about this one? I think, Beth, you can probably relate to this. It's like one day you flip a switch and become somebody you never knew. So both Beth and Jody saw that movie Enough. It definitely, if you know anybody that's in an abusive relationship, it's a really good idea to let them see that movie. Because it was very well done, I thought. Now, looking at it from the other point of view, this quote is interesting. It said, "It is better to live at the corner of a rooftop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome woman." And let us remember that, you know, it's not just men. And Beth is saying, you know, that's so right. I look in the mirror and I smile now. It's life-changing. Yeah, I'm very proud of you, Beth. You know that. Linda saying, Sal, what gave you the strength to leave the narcissist? I'd love to tell you I was strong. I wasn't strong. Linda, there was no ways I was strong. I was so unhappy. You know, this wasn't what I signed up for. You know, I didn't, you know, I signed up for somebody to obey their marriage vows, and he wasn't doing that. I signed up for, you know, for this to be a happy thing, and that we were going to be a partnership, and that wasn't it at all. And so eventually you realize this isn't what I signed up for. And I was given a set of lies that to me, I just don't like people who lie. You know, it was just like every day I was told another lie. And, you know, it's what happens when you marry a narcissist. And they believe the lies. That makes it even worse. And you know, a quote that says, "Not all wounds are visible." And I think in some ways, I'd have to say, Linda, that in some ways, getting out and surviving made me strong. And I can't remember what triggered it, Linda, if that would help. I can remember the moment that I started to realize how bad it was. If that would help you to know when that was for me. Because, I don't think I realized how badly I had become an enabler of a narcissist, or how much of a victim I had fallen to this man, because he was charismatic and because he was, very much a public figure and da 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 da. And I was at a dinner party, Linda, one night, and my husband said one of those things, we were talking about people who attack you in front of other people, and make fun of you or whatever. And he said something to me, and I cowered. I was sitting opposite him, and I literally cowered. I shrank into myself, if you can imagine me doing that. I shrank into myself, and the host looked at me and said, "I never realized that you were a victim before, Sal." And I went, "What?" And he said, "I heard what he just said to you, and I saw your reaction, which means those words hurt you really badly." And, the tears were coming out of my eyes by then. And I said, "Yeah, they did." And he said, "Don't you dare keep quiet about that. Don't you dare be a victim anymore, Sal." And literally, I went back that night, Linda, and started to read. And he used the word, "You've become codependent." And I literally started to research what codependency was. I started to do lots of research and lots of reading, and then start answering back. And that took a lot of effort for me. And he didn't like that, so he left. It was, when I say that's how I got out, I started to answer back, and he didn't like it. And here I was in a strange country, with no family, and it was horrific, quite honestly. How was I going to survive? But I am a survivor, so I did. How about this one? Family is supposed to be our safe haven. Very often it's a place where we find the deepest heartache. And, I wonder if some of you feel that. I know that we don't all have the perfect families. And, once you get strong, you realize that you can create your own family if that's what you want. And what really stunned me is that my new neighbor at my new house, my new neighbor chose to have me as the person that visited her, not her family. Isn't that interesting? And I thanked her for that. What an incredible honor that she chose her two next door neighbors to be her family rather than her actual family. And the reason was because we were older, we were more concerned about staying safe and doing things like that. And, I thought it was really interesting. And did you know that emotional abuse is the leading reason of suicide? Emotional abuse. is the leading reason for people committing suicide. So it's really important, if you've got a friend that is being, that has any of those warning signs going on, help them, be that rock for them to understand, but give them time to understand, right? You know that you didn't learn this in a day, all right? You need to just bit by bit, drip feed them that this isn't love. Love does not look like this. But unfortunately, we get told that, our job is to shut up. Little girls should be seen and not heard. Hello, not doing that one again. And also to remind them that a healthy relationship does not drag you down. It inspires you to be better. It inspires you to be better. And when I look back, I look at this next quote and it says, don't judge yourself by what others did to you. There's part of me that is genuinely strong in being able to sit here and say to you, I probably would not be doing the work I do today if I hadn't been through that heartache and pain. Because what I said is, I really want to make sure that I teach other people not to go through what I went through. And it's all about emotional intelligence. And it's all about, even my family. I started to get really strong with my family and I upset a lot of my family. Oh, Linda's saying, I'm learning for the first time to make me my family. Yes, and also to pick your family. I have brothers and sisters, but they're not my brothers and sisters by birth. They are my brothers and sisters of choice. Right? And it's really funny. I have children of choice. I wasn't able to have children. And as you know, Benji is one. But I have, quite a few of them. And they're my children of choice. Why? They make my life better. And for a while, they let me make their life better. Which, hi, says, good to see you. Really good to see you. And how are you, honey? I normally only see you in December, so it's, Are you still you were in Florida, I think, says. Did I get that right? And Yasha's saying, sorry, I fell asleep, but I'm awake now. Anyway, I was literally in the same situation with my parents. I'm free now due to being aware of what's happening. Well done, Nyasha. And keep learning, Nyasha, because, it's an ongoing process. Every time I think I'm strong and I've got it under control, I need to remind myself, no, I'm allowing this to happen and that to happen. How about this one? A woman should never invest in a relationship she would not want for her daughter, nor allow any man to treat her in a way she would scold her son for. And I'd like to flip that over, because it's not just men that are abusers. We've got female abusers as well. Says is saying, I know I'm in California. Yeah, I had a feeling you'd moved. That's why I remember you moved again. I've been busy with pharmacy school. Well, that's awesome. Well done. How are you enjoying that? But that's busy at the moment, right? It's probably a very safe profession to be in at the moment. And here's something that I had to really believe, Linda, just so that you know. It is better for me, it was better to be single. Being single was better than being lied to, being cheated on, and disrespected. And I have no doubt in my mind. I actually did start another relationship. And guess what? The same pattern started to unfold, Linda. And I knew that pattern now. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I knew that pattern. And I literally cut off the relationship right then. And the guy was stunned, absolutely stunned. And I took him to the front door and I opened it and I said, okay, out you go and don't come back. And he spent about 6 months trying to get back. And I said, no, I'm sorry. No. I know the pattern. I've been there before. I have no interest in repeating it. So, learn to respect women. Hi, Mama. Good to see you. She's saying, hi, Mama Sal. I watched you from Saudi. Benji said so many good things about you. Well, I have so many good things to say about Benji. It's definitely a two-way street, not a one-way street. For years I was able to help him, and then life changed, and he now helps me in different ways. It's wonderful. Says is saying it's very hard at being at pharmacy school, but I am managing. I just wanted to say hi. Happy to see you, Mama Sal, and good night. Says, I love it, and thank you so much for popping in. It's very special to me that you would do that. Thank you. All right, Autumn, good night, and sleep well, and look after those babies for us. I'm about to go as well. And so, basically, I think the person who asked for me to do this broadcast isn't actually here today, or if they are, I'm not aware that they're in the room. So when I next see them, I will make sure that they know that we did this broadcast, because somebody did ask for me to talk about what are the signs of that you're in an abusive relationship. So I hope you've all learned something and learned how strong you've become, and also learned the things to watch out for and not allow. And, my attitude is that if those things happen and I tell you, hey, hang on a second, please don't do that around me because I don't put up with that stuff, and they continue to do it, then they're not really my friend, are they? And that's not love. And I keep checking myself as well. Do you all get that? All these things that I've talked about, I want you to be aware. Are you doing it to somebody else? Are you doing it to your children? And that is the thing to be careful of, because it's easy to say, hey, some guy did this to me. But, if I'm really honest with myself, when I started to get honest with myself, I saw that I wasn't so stellar either. But I'm not a perfect person now. And I'm happier. So Niastra said a great topic. Keep up the great work. Good night, everybody. Take care and God bless. And so to all of you, thank you for letting me know what you'd like me to talk about so that I can do a broadcast like this. And thank you for being here to listen and to support that part of what I do. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see some of you on Sunday. And just keep calm. Whatever's going on in the world, if you have lots of negative feelings going on, we did quite a broadcast at lunchtime today talking about some of the feelings that are going on about this week that's coming up. It's a scary week for a lot of people, and that's okay. It's okay because you've been scared before and you have survived before. So just keep on track and keep distracting yourself, do something creative, bake something, make something, do something, and just, don't watch too much of the news. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, thank you for being here. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.